the second time we do this Osmocosm conference, and last time I introduced the speaker, and we were sitting behind each other because she's a scientist, she's a medical doctor, she's also my wife and mother of my 3 children, and it's my distinct pleasure to introduce Dr. Simmie Foster, who will talk to us about neuroimmunity. But before I let her speak, I wanted to show you a couple of things that also relate to what Joe just said. Joe talked to us about how we can connect and communicate via olfaction. And here I want to show you a molecular dynamic simulations animation of real data of an olfactory receptor binding to an odorant molecule. This is real data that we actually ran on a real computer with hundreds of thousands of atoms being simulated. So what happens is this red circle describes a odorant molecule. That means something that carries a sense of smell, that if it falls into your nose and is detected by a receptor, it will elicit the sensation of scent. It gets sensed by this receptor that then causes the action potential to be fired by the neuron, and then all those action potentials get integrated by your brain into a sensation. Note very importantly that the shape of the molecule being sensed changes as a result of being sensed. This is in a way the Heisenberg uncertainty principle in olfaction. You cannot smell something without changing it. All right? And also, when this molecule gets exhaled, if it doesn't get metabolized and degraded, now the next person who will smell it will know, in a sense, that it has been smelled before, and potentially even by whom. So smell is a communication that it sort of goes like, if I smell it, I exhale it, the next person smells it, there's information being accumulated this way. And this is very, very relevant and interesting to me that this happens. And for a less philosophical position, these are 2 of my children. Simmie is their mother, who's going to talk in a minute. And I wanted to ask the question of subjective semiochemistry versus objective chemistry. That means the following. I was changing my son's diaper, who is maybe a month or so old, when my 2.5, 3-year-old daughter walks in. And she asks, "What's that smell, Daddy?" And my instinct was to point to the diaper and start talking about scatol and indole and volatiles and how they travel through air into her nose and all this story. But I caught myself. I took a breath, and instead I asked her back. She asked me, "What's that smell, Daddy?" I asked her back, "What does it tell you?" "I don't want to eat it." Suddenly, I have a very deep answer because I posed the question differently to her back. She asked me what the smell is. I asked her back, "What does it tell you to do or not do?" And this is powerful. Even if you're supremely hungry, if you imagine yourself having your favorite food ready to go, and you're very hungry, but imagine having to do this at the MBTA's stinkiest public bathroom. Your appetite is gone immediately. You can modulate appetite by just imagining a smell, not even having to smell it. So this is some powerful stuff. So what is a better question? What is that smell, or what does this smell tell you to do? So in responsive environments, emitting smells as well as detecting smells is key to modulating behavior, to understanding how all this works. Now, back to our speaker. Whoops, apologies. And we have Simmie Foster, who is here. Nope, who is right here. She's going to talk about olfaction and neuroimmunity. And she is the PI and head and director of the Harvard Laboratory for Hot and Cool Research. I kid you not, that's the name of her lab. That's the name of her group. Hot and cool research because she studies the effects of temperature changes, and heat flows on the immune system and on mental health. Her clinical work has to do with depression and anxiety in actual patients, and her research work has to do with neuroimmunity. I'm also very outgunned in my own family by my wife, who is an MD and PhD, and her first ever paper was a first author paper in Real Nature when she was 23. So I did not do that when I was 23. So with that, please help me welcome Dr. Simmie Foster.
Perfect. Okay, so today, just like Andreas in that wonderful introduction said, I'm going to tell you about olfaction and with a neuroimmune angle. So typically, the nervous system and the immune system have been thought of as 2 completely separate systems. So the nervous system monitors homeostasis, detects the environment, and the immune system is our defensive system and protects us against bad bugs. But really, they were finding that they work together and that both neurons and immune cells monitor homeostasis. You can see there's T cells that exist in the heart that help monitor blood pressure. And there's macrophages pretty much in every organ and tissue of the body, including the brain, where they're typically called microglia, that also monitor homeostasis. And, there was a paper very recently that even implicated olfactory receptors on macrophages as helping them detect bacteria, such as salmonella. And so macrophages and neurons, when you look at them side by side, they look very similar and they express a lot of the same receptors. So not only do immune cells monitor homeostasis, and neurons can actually also play a role in pathogen defense. So many neurons express pattern recognition receptors that can detect viruses and bacteria. And so there's a communication between the neurons and the immune cells that is important both for host defense, so getting rid of bad bacteria and viruses, and also for making sure that our tissues are functioning normally. Now, there hasn't been a lot of work done on the olfactory system in host defense beyond behavioral measures. For example, like when someone gets sick, like we're probably going to talk a lot about in the rest of the conference, you can sometimes smell it, right? And this can be a way to both protect the community, as in we try to avoid people who are sick, and also sort of determine mating behavior and all sorts of things like that. Okay. And one thing that is, has come up recently too is a lot of people get anosmia with COVID, and that is really not clear, but it does seem to be a product of the immune response and sort of overactive inflammation in the neuroepithelium that then actually changes the gene expression of olfactory receptors in the neurons themselves. But that is really, it's sort of an open area of research. So some other implications of olfaction and immunity, olfaction and immunity sort of working together, is the possibility of using olfaction and signals from olfactory sensory neurons to modify immune responses. So, for example, when you get a vaccine, for example, the COVID vaccine, usually it comes with a little boost called an adjuvant that tells the immune system to remember whatever signal it was, whatever protein you're giving, whatever RNA you're giving as dangerous. And it's a little bit different with RNA because when you have RNA free inside the cell, like not guided, it's pretty much always seen as a danger signal. But so there's this possibility of using olfactory signals to sort of boost the immune system and boost the immune response. And so using smells as a potential adjuvant. And another application that we could think of is sort of related to temperature. Now, there's not really a lot known about how temperature might specifically influence this sort of neuroimmune communication. And so that's what my lab is studying. And in addition, there's not a lot known about how scent and olfaction can sort of modulate or is modulated by temperature. Beyond there's been a few studies. There was one really interesting study where if you remove olfactory bulbs and people who've had their olfactory bulb removed, they tend to have difficulties with thermal regulation. And that is also not well understood. And it may be that there's the neurons that, sort of control body temperature. In addition, also have olfactory receptors. And so the olfactory epithelium may be playing some sort of role in modulating temperature and also modulating immunity. So here what we have is if you give an immune stimulus, such as, you give bacteria or something to a macrophage, like we were talking about, one of these immune cells, they make signals called cytokines that then talk to the brain. And typically that can lead to, in the case of like an overwhelming infection, fever. And so the question is, can we give olfactory stimuli that then can modify the immune response when you have like an overwhelming inflammatory response and like a bad infection, fever, pain? And so you could potentially make something like an anti-adjuvant that then can calm down the neuroimmune system. So here we're just talking about a couple of different examples that are just wide open for future studies, and a lot of opportunity for integrating olfaction and immunity, and also in ways that could help boost the immune response positively. I just like to give thanks to my department, and a lot of the early neuroimmune research was done with Clifford Wolf, and happy to take questions.
All right, thank you. Thank you so very much, Simmie. And can we have some mics on please here for questions from the audience? And while the audience is thinking, I have a question for you, Simmie. Do you feel that there's some hope for using neuroimmunity type understanding for curing or addressing the problems of people with anosmia? Are there any tricks that we could maybe promise, or at least think about, or at least challenge this audience here to think about?
You know, there's been, it's such a big thing, right? Like this persistent anosmia that sometimes goes away like this, and sometimes lingers, and sometimes just makes things smell funny. And so, it really has been, because it seems like there is a strong component of this sort of persistent inflammation that then is not just acting on the cells that might have been infected, but is also suppressing olfactory receptor expression in the neurons themselves. And so people have tried things like corticosteroids to try to tamp down the immune response. And it's not that successful yet. So I think we're not getting at the main crux of the problem. But yes, the answer is yes. I think we can probably maybe need to work at both sides. So one, see if we can release this repression of expression of the olfactory receptors. And then second, reprogram the immune cells. And steroids are not a great way to do that, but have a more sensitive way of reprogramming the immune cells to maybe encourage re-expression of the olfactory receptors in the neurons themselves.
Thank you. Simmie, I have a question. And the question is the following. You kind of referenced how perhaps olfactory, data can kind of maybe help us cure diseases in a way. What I'm thinking about is, how about the opposite? If we get to a point where we are utilizing some of the stuff that you're mentioning, can individuals or hackers create the opposite by manipulating certain things? Can they hack into the body and create different types of conditions in the future? The hacking.
Could the olfactory system be hacked in order to create disease? That is a very interesting question. I mean, probably the simplest thing is to throw a stink bomb, right? That will immediately create vomiting. But yes, I think you can always use things that can increase health to decrease health, right? Like with overtaking medicine, for example. But we could probably come up with different scent codes, right? Some that can make people feel ill or otherwise injure them. And sometimes the molecules themselves that are the question is, would someone really sit for it, right? Because usually things that are dangerous or that would make you feel sick, they also cause disgust and avoidance, which is sort of one of the main reasons that people propose that sometimes we smell things, right, to keep us healthy and safe, and also to provide pleasure. So yes, I think probably we could come up with something like that, but hopefully not.
Yeah. It's a good thing that we have lawyers here to put a damper on our enthusiasm every now and then. Thank you for that, Dr. Foster.